Welcome back to Cup of Quest, and today I am going to my favourite CEX in the Northeast. Join me. Coming into CEX Washington, and straight away we have some nice little things here. A lovely display of Nintendo Switches, a very rare NES 3DS, and this Gold Cliff Game & Watch. Also Coraline. When did Coraline on the Wii get so expensive? Absolutely random, some of these titles that are going just off the charts in terms of value. Straight into Nintendo Switch, which is where the cream of the crop is for me. And first up, we have Cat Quest 3. And moving on, we have plenty of other usual suspects, including a bunch of Final Fantasies. Now, I recently got Final Fantasy X from Japan, which had all of the stuff on cart, but it's nice to see the other one. Also, Final Fantasy 7 and 8, the OG versions, which are now getting quite expensive. I remember getting them for next to nothing. Also, Aladdin, Jungle Book, and Lion King. Now, this is an alternative version. Sometimes you see the Aladdin and Lion King, but this is one includes Jungle Book, which goes for a little bit more expensive compared to the other ones. It's always nice to see, and if I was going to pick this one up, I would go for the trilogy rather than the duo. Moving on, we've got a bunch of other games, more Final Fantasy. I do need Final Fantasy 12 for the Nintendo Switch. I don't own that one as of yet. This, A Hat in Time. Now, I've not seen this one before. I know it was a Kickstarter game, and I do own it on the Wii U and the Switch and PlayStation digitally. Probably PC too. Also, House Flipper. So, House Flipper is a game in which you flip houses. You basically go in, decorate a house, do it up, make it all nice, and sell it for profit. I have played through this on the PC and on the PlayStation, and I know there is a sequel out now, which I do want on the PlayStation. It's a really enjoyable game, much like Power Simulator. It's one of those ones you just look at it and think it's going to be, nah, not good, but it is surprisingly good. I probably should pick it up on the Switch at some point. Now, this wasn't an interesting one, A Little to the Left. Now, this is a title I watched Cecilia Immigreen play a few months ago and looked absolutely intriguing. It's not necessarily on my list, but it is one that I would contemplate picking up at some point. This is one that I do need to pick up. This is Ori Collection. Now, this is on my list, and if I hadn't seen some other things, this would have definitely been a pickup for me. I've heard nothing but good things about the Ori franchise, but it's one that I just haven't picked up as of yet. Should I pick it up? Let me know in the comments below. And we've got this one. This was one that I've not seen very often. This is called This Is the Police. Now, this is a management slash kind of somewhat RPG game in which you control police officers and have to solve crimes, or you can join up with the mafia and turn a blind eye. It's rather unique. It's definitely an interesting title. Cover reprinted. Moving into PlayStation 5, and I'm starting to collect PlayStation 5 again. I'm starting to play through things, so I'm always now having a look to see what's there, but you know, it's always exciting seeing Call of Duty. Well, this caught my eye as well. The Avengers. Now, The Avengers was a bit of a sad thing for me because this took away from Tomb Raider and they put all of their eggs on this Avengers online game, and it came out and it was pants. But that Steelbook honestly does look pretty cool. Astrobot is definitely on my list of things to pick up at some point on PlayStation. I haven't picked it up yet, but it needs to be on there. It absolutely needs to be in my collection, and I'm surprised it isn't. This is one that did catch my eye though. Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. Now, this is one that I kind of associated with a game called Skies of Arcadia back on the GameCube, and I kind of feel that's what they were going for. However, I've got a little bit of a warning bells with this one because this one is £12 already, and I know it only came out a few months ago. So that suggests to me it's not something excellent. But if you guys have played it, let me know. Everything else is just, you know, your usual stuff. The Oregon Trail. Now, this is a remake of the Oregon Trail that was released many, many years ago. I know there's a Switch version and there's a PlayStation version. The Switch one kind of is on a list of things to pick up, but it's not one that I'm truly excited for. There's been many other Oregon Trail versions come out, including the Oregon Trail and Death Road to Canada, which are probably slightly better. But yeah, it's interesting to see as it is. Now looking into retro games, and that is a very nice Mario and Luigi. While I already own the game, it's always nice to see. Mario and Luigi on Game Boy Advance was a really fun title in my opinion, and it was a nice turn-based title for a console that had a bunch of turn-based RPGs, but it kind of revitalized Mario RPGs as a whole. I know it came out not long after we had Paper Mario, the 1,000 Year Door, but I think between that and this, both are absolutely fantastic. Looking into GameCube, and it's the same games that we see every time I come into here. I will eventually pick up like Lost Kingdoms and SSX Tricky, but again, not today. This was another one that I had my eye on, which was Serious Sam. Now this one was in Newcastle, but it's also here, but again, both versions are just very poor quality. It's getting very difficult to find genuinely good quality GameCube games on shelves. Splinter Cell, another one. I feel like it's a bit of a must-have for that generation, but not interested. Retro games is nice. It's not really a huge amount that I want. This store does have a bit of an issue with not actually putting a lot of stuff on display, however. So there is a title that I did come here for, which I haven't seen yet, but I know for a fact they have it listed. Moving back into PlayStation 4, and this is always a nice little thing. It's always nice to have a look and see what's there. City Skylines, I kind of wanted to pick up. I should have had a look at that Blasphemous 2, but I just didn't. Silly me. I know the Switch one is somewhat expensive for the Blasphemous one, and it is on the list. I think Blasphemous 2 is on the list as well. I kind of have an idea of what I want here. There's a few titles that I've seen that I've kind of got in the back of my mind. But do I pick it up? Also interesting to note is that there's a Ratchet and Clank there with a reprinted cover, of course. Mafia the Old Country, a title that just went so cheap so fast. You knew as soon as you looked at it, it was going to be cheap. Moving back over into the 3DS section. 3DS is a console I love, but I don't see much of it. This one doesn't have a lot of it. Only really had a reprinted cover, Final Fantasy Explorers. DS, so much shovelware, so many shovelware titles. But this one they had Dragon Quest VIII. Now, Dragon Quest VIII was the title that got me into Dragon Quest fully. Now, I had already played Dragon Warrior Monsters back in the day, but once Dragon Quest VIII came around on the PS2, keep in mind that was one of the very first Dragon Quest games we got in the UK. I fell in love with it. I did play Dragon Quest VIII's remake a bit on the 3DS, but not a huge amount. It kind of came so close after 7 that I just didn't really end up playing either of them a huge amount. But I am excited for 7, the remake of 7 coming next year. A few other titles that, again, wasn't interesting. But this one was kind of interesting. Orcs and Elves. I've never heard of this one before. It looked kind of interesting from the back. But if I was collecting DS, I probably would have picked it up, but not today. Not today. I think it's time to check out and get a cup of tea. Nothing better than a good cup of tea after retro game hunting. CEX Washington was great as always, and I found some titles I just never expected. Honestly, I just didn't even know some of these even came out. Well, at least one of them, and the others I was aware. And the first title was a Switch game. Now, this Switch game is one that I had on my list, and I actually had the sequel on my list, but I kind of took it off as a kind of a see how the first one goes, and that title is This Is the Police. Now, this is a management slash adventure game in which you take the control of Police Chief Jack Boyd, who is coming face to face with the underbelly of the city obviously he works in. He's going to retire and he needs to make so much money before he retires, and you as the player can do a few different ways to try and accomplish this, and that is, you could use the local mafia, you could just solve crimes, or you can just do whatever, but it is a management game at heart, so you are basically having to control your police officers and do kind of send them here and send them there. And I don't know, I just felt that's something unique. A few years ago I did play one called, I think it was City of Gangsters on the PC, and that was very much the opposite, where you had to control it like a criminal gang and take control of the city. This very much feels like the opposite. Now, my brother played this a few years ago and he did have a lot of positive things about it. However, he did see it, don't stop with it, continue playing with it, and it's just one of those ones where if you stop playing it, you have to restart to get back into it. But you know what? This had solid reviews and the sequel seems to be pretty good. But it's one that I think I'm going to try out first. At the end of the day, I love management games. I love the tycoon kind of games. I love the simulation games. And having this on the Nintendo Switch is one that I'm going to try out and see how it goes. I am really excited to. And this one was, I think it was about £10. So it was a nice little cheap bargain. The next game is one that I knew had a Switch release. I believe I own it on the Switch. I definitely own it on the PlayStation. I own it on the PC. And I backed the Kickstarter. But I never knew that I'd actually got a physical release, at least over here. At least it seems like over here. That title is A Hat in Time. Now, this one was a little bit more expensive than I was expecting. I think it was about £22. But this is a platformer game that harks back to the golden age of platformers. Well, one of the golden ages. The golden age that kind of about 20 years ago, where GameCube had titles such as Mario Sunshine, you know, the Crash Bandicoot went 3D, Rayman went 3D, you know, that kind of thing. But it also harks back to stuff like Wind Waker with the cel shaded graphics, and this one was one I was really excited for when it got kickstarted, and I backed it and I ran through the whole thing, and I played it. I can't remember if I played it on Switch or if it was on Wii U, but I played through it back then, and I do have it on PlayStation 5. In fact, it's actually my go-to game if I have any issues with my controller of PlayStation 5. It's the kind of the game I pick up and it's like, oh yeah, you can have a muck around with. Not really played much of it on the PlayStation 5, but yeah, it's kind of the one I use to test out things. But as soon as I saw this, I was just like, I need to own this. And interestingly enough, this has the American style on the bottom, and it's got the American style, I don't know if you can see there, the American style spine. So yeah, I was quite surprised to see this. I don't know if it's because it was backed, so it had UK releases, or CEX have started taking in some American games. Maybe there is a UK version of this, and I'm sure I'm going to run into this problem when I'm going to sell it and they're just like, oh well, we don't take American games. But I'm not intending to sell it. This is one of those ones where, again, I own it so many different versions, but again, as soon as I saw it, I didn't know it was on Switch, otherwise it would have been on the list, but it's one I'm excited to add to my collection. It is an absolutely fantastic game, and honestly, if you are hankering for GameCube era platform games and you want something a little bit different, try A Hat in Time. It's a really fun title. It's usually fairly cheap. Like I said, it's on most consoles. I think it's on all consoles. Probably on Xbox as well. But yeah, it's one that I really enjoy. It's a really fun time. But it's one that I think I'm really happy to own. I'm really happy to have this in my collection. Honestly, I was so surprised to see it. I didn't expect it to come out. I didn't know it had a Switch physical release. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's going in the collection. It's got to go in. I've got to have it. Absolutely fantastic find. The next title is one that I bought for pretty cheap, and it's for the Game Boy. And yeah, Game Boy's in a weird position because I keep seeing these Game Boy games and I was just like, I want that with a box or a manual. But then I started thinking, well, you know, I don't need boxes and manuals for everything. And there are a few titles I'm happy to pick up, which I think I'm just going to pick up whenever I see them. And this one was so cheap, even if I found a box for it, if I wanted to buy it, I would be happy to rebuy it because it was £3. That title is Bust-A-Move Generation. Now, Bust-A-Move is a franchise that I have a lot of nostalgia for. I used to play it all the time on the PlayStation 1 and the N64. I even got addicted to Beehive Bedlam, which was on Sky, which was basically a Bust-A-Move clone. So when I saw that this Bust-A-Move Millennium, not Generations, was on the Game Boy Color, I had to pick it up, and it's not great. it's a huge downgrade. I mean, I shouldn't have expected the same kind of quality, but yeah, it's like, I don't know, there's just so little personality compared to the PlayStation N64 games that it's kind of there. If I really want Bust-A-Move on a handheld console, yeah, this'll do, but it's not really that good, to be honest. It's just kind of, yeah, Bust-A-Move. It's basic, it's simple, it's very slow, it feels very, very slow. But yeah, it kind of is what it is. And I vaguely remember this having pretty poor review scores back in the day. But you know what? It is what it is. It was like £3. So yeah, it's another game for the Game Boy collection. If I ever come to get a full collection, I've already got it. Brilliant. The next game we're going to talk about is one that it's interesting for me. Now, this is a very important title. This is probably one of the most important titles of all time. Arcade. And this has been not even remade, this was ported onto the Game Boy Advance in a very controversial release, at least at the time. But I'm going to be honest, this is going to launch another subset. In fact, this is a subset that I started collecting back in the day, and I'm getting a new one for. So I'm going to have to now include these. And this is NES Classics Donkey Kong. Now, the NES Classics were released somewhat late into the Game Boy Advance's lifespan, and at the time they were pretty controversial. People weren't too happy with the fact that Nintendo were re-releasing very old titles at high-end prices. However, over time, just about every single one of these titles has become somewhat expensive, especially if you want to collect them in box. Now, back in the day, I picked up The Legend of Zelda. At the time, I don't think I'd ever played Legend of Zelda NES, and this was one that I really wanted. I do also own Mario Brothers and Ice Climbers, they're just in storage. And I'm fairly sure I picked up Pac-Man. So when I saw this one, this Donkey Kong version of it, I was kind of like, this needs to be in the collection. This is a new subset, because with this I've got, I think, at least four, maybe 5 of these titles. Ice Climbers is one of the most expensive ones. Do I go for a full set? And it's going to be an interesting one because I don't see these. I see them unboxed. I see the cartridge only for Mario Brothers pretty much all the time, but I don't see these boxed. And there's titles such as Metroid, Castlevania, Bomberman that got releases, and I don't know what it is. I mean, yeah, it's like there, but I mean, it's numbered as well, so that's number 2. This is number 5. I've got to get them now. I've got to get the full set. I'm going to have to get in the loft, because, I mean, once I get in the loft, you guys will see that, because Game Boy Advance heaven, N64 boxed heaven, so many up there, but I kind of want them. And at the end of the day, this is a game, Donkey Kong. It's not even the best way to play Donkey Kong. It's Donkey Kong, but as soon as I saw it, I was just like, that needs to be in my collection. I love Game Boy Advance, and like I said, I do have nostalgia of buying this when everybody was in an uproar about these being released. And yeah, now they're fairly expensive. Now the collectibles, I'm kind of like, I want to have the full subset. I don't see them at CEX. I think CEX has a few of them, but not many boxed. Retro game shops are probably going to have the same ones over and over. This is going to be a challenge, but it's a new side quest that's going to get started. A difficult side quest, indeed. Speaking of subsets, Speaking of collecting and speaking of subsets, I have a console that I have had for a year and a half and I barely buy games for. That console is the PlayStation 5. Now the PlayStation 5 is a weird enigma for me because, if I'm honest, I went from historic PlayStation 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, most of the games ended up being dirt cheap. Apart from your odd title here and there, your obscure titles, all of the first party stuff is pretty cheap. I remember buying God of War 1, PlayStation 4, maybe about 5 years ago, for about $6.99, $7.99, brand new. And so when I looked at PlayStation 5, I was like, well, I can wait for that. That's going to be cheap in a few years. I can wait for that. And because I waited and waited and waited, I never ended up starting to think in my head, maybe this is a good deal. Some of these games now, some of the first party games, CEX are selling them for about £10 to £20. So I've kind of skipped them. But maybe it's time I start buying. If I'm honest, AAA gaming, kind of hit and miss for me. There's a lot of games where I look at them and I was just like, oh no. The word Souls-like is something immediately that I kind of just like, don't want that. And there's a lot of games that I just prefer playing handheld, so I pick up on the Switch. I also have a very good gaming PC, so yeah. But I'm waffling. You want to see what I picked up, and I got this for £10. And this one was like, to me, it was like, maybe I start picking up PlayStation 5 again. I went to Cash Converters in Galleries, Washington. They had a bunch of PlayStation games for £10. And the one I've been wanting is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, Ratchet & Clank has actually been a franchise that I really enjoyed. It's been one that over the years I've came to enjoy and just sit down and play them between other bigger games. And Rift Apart was the #1 game I wanted on my PlayStation 5. However, it was always fairly expensive, brand new. It kind of dips every now and again. Sometimes it'll be like full price, sometimes it'll go down to £20, sometimes it'll be about £30 to £40. I think at the moment it's about £35. But it's never been at a price that I really could see it. I wanted to hurry up and get it. £10 for this? Yeah, I'm going to pick it up. They had Assassin's Creed Valhalla and they had Assassin's Creed Mirage as well. Again, I was like, yeah, I probably should pick them up. But I don't play on my PlayStation 5 enough to kind of justify buying loads, and space is a premium. So if I'm going for Game Boy, if I'm going for GameCube, if I'm going for Switch, PlayStation 5 has been left in the dust. But if I see a great bargain like £10 for a first party PlayStation 5 game, you know I'm going to try and get it. I can't wait to check this one out. I've been really hyped for it, but I've always been, it'll get cheaper, it'll get cheaper, it'll get cheaper. It's cheap now, I'm buying it. So yeah, this is going to be the start of me collecting PlayStation 5 games. I'm still going to rein things in. I'm not going to buy, Astro Bot for £45, £50 because I still feel that is expensive. But if I start seeing games for £15, £20, I'm going to pick them up because I need to start using my PlayStation 5, if I'm honest. I've had it for a year and a half. I've just played Yakuza 8 and I love it. But I got that when I got my PlayStation and it's taken me a year and a half to play it. If you look at what I've got, I haven't got anything exciting. But I have played a lot of them. Spider-Man 2 I played, but it was more Spider-Man and it was expensive, so I sold it afterwards. Ghost of Tsushima, same boat, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then I sold it because it was still fairly expensive. And this is the thing, I'm buying them when they're cheap. They're getting like massive price drops, and then CEX is like paying more. So like Ghost of Tsushima, I think I paid £20 for. Spider-Man I paid £30 for. I finished them and then I was like, Ghost of Tsushima, trading value £30. Spider-Man, trading £35. I'm like, well, I'm getting more than I paid for them. Well, there's no point keeping them. I'll just buy them again if I want them on the shelf when they're dead cheap. That's my logic. But yeah, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. But that wasn't the only game I got. Cash Converters were doing £10 on just about every single PlayStation game. And I found a beloved title that I did just get on the GameCube. At least I got the box for. And that title is The Simpsons Hit and Run Platinum Edition. Now, yeah, I'm going to be honest, this is pretty much trade bait. It was £10, CEX, I think they take it in for £10, but this is one I know I can go to a retro game shop and I can get maybe £15, £16 for. I've got it on the GameCube, I don't need it on the PlayStation 2, but yeah, it's just one, I'm going to be honest, like I said, if I'm more than happy to buy cheap and sell for high, or buy in a charity shop to sell at CEX. At the end of the day, everybody else does it, why can't I too? But yeah, this was one that, again, $9.99 cash converters. I'm going to pick it up. It's Simpsons Hit and Run. It's always expensive. I think this one is a little bit cheaper than the GameCube one, but yeah, I mean, if I can walk into Ripon and the guy behind the counter and go, yeah, that's a £60 game and I can get this for £10, you know for a fact I'm going to go down to Ripon and try and sell this for more. It's a good pickup, but it's trading bait. Let me know in the comments what you guys have been picking up, and if you like this, leave a like and subscribe. Honestly, I feel like I've had a really good haul, and CEX Washington just constantly becomes my favourite CEX. I mean, yeah, Cash Converters was great as well, but I mean, this is the police. Never heard, most people probably haven't heard of it. It looks great. Hat in Time, absolutely fantastic, underrated gem. Ratchet and Clank, 10 quid, can't say no. And of course, Donkey Kong, another subset, another side quest started. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you like this, leave a like and consider subscribing. It always helps out the channel, and I'll see you next week. See you later.